We are, well, I am going to talk about this building a caring community. And, I guess it's been a hard day today, if I'm being honest with you. And I feel like that in hard times, I think of Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers' mother said, Mr. Rogers said that his mother said, when I was a boy and you would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will find people who are always helping. And I think that's true. And I think that is how I grew up, and that's how I live my life. And on this page, that's the thing that I want to drive on the page is this idea of caring for each other. It saddens me when people reach out to me and tell me things about where they live and what is happening to them and how they feel like they can't get movement in a direction to save themselves. And, I came to think about this whole topic when I was thinking about the fact that it's taken the Epstein uh, women 27 years to get some movement on their side where somebody was actually looking at them and deciding that maybe they had something to say. And I think that we all need to be looking when people are speaking out and listening to our own resolve about how that is and how it is showing up in our lives. I think about the P. Diddy case and how he was able to, for whatever reason, the powers that be that went after him didn't charge him with the things that they thought that they could, get a good verdict on. And I wonder why. And it's confusing to me in that this happens a lot with people that are in bad relationships and they have kids and nobody's looking out for the kids because they just want to be right about how they feel about what happened to them. And the court is not set up to take care of kids. We need to be looking for a different avenue. You can't expect people who are coming out of trauma um, to come into court and be full of decorum. That's not the way trauma works. Uh, that's why we need professionals looking at it. I look to the work of Dr. Cochiola on that one, and her and Amy Polacco wrote a book called Framed, the underworld um, of women in family court. And it happens all over the world. It's this idea that you wouldn't allow people next door to do the things that the people inside the house are doing. And it comes to me from a caring place. I just, I think about when I was young and there was a person, a young girl at my school, same age as me. And um, it ended up being quite the story, I think, and I'm willing to share it. Um, I saw her, she's trying to keep the ball away from the teacher, and it was a substitute teacher, and I didn't want to have to deal with the real teacher when they came back. So I took the ball away from the girl, and the girl called me a foul name, and I got up and in her face. Not gonna have somebody talk to me that way when I was young because I had three brothers, and that's what I was taught to do. And we got in a little pushing up altercation, and then some people uh, asked me to um, say something to her because she was talking about me behind. And, this is all kid stuff. And so I pushed her and said, you have something to say. And ended up in a little scuffle. She ended up going into the school administrative. And I went in there, and of course, I didn't own my own stuff because I was still young and didn't want to get in trouble. But um, when the girl came in, she had bitten a teacher. She had um, been whacking people with her instrument, and she just broke down and started crying about how it was her birthday and that a pet that she had at home died. And I started to feel bad that I had been a party to this situation. I didn't get in any trouble, and she was gone for a few days. And a few days later, she came back, and one of her friends came to me and asked me if I would come talk to her. And I said, I really don't have anything to say. Wouldn't be anything to do with this. But the girl begged me, and I went over there and I said, I really don't have anything to say. And she said, well, I really wish you'd just kill me, because when my dad gets out of jail, he's going to kill me. And I thought, what? And I immediately had care for her. I didn't know if it was true or not, but immediately had care for somebody I've been at odds with. And I knew that there was a problem. And because I was such a trusted student, I was able to take her out of the lunchroom and down to a counselor who talked with her. And after a little while, the counselor came out and told me I could go to my class. So I went to my class, and I didn't see that young lady. Thought I'd probably never see her again, and I always wondered what happened to her. She never came back to school. And then I was in high school, and a young woman came up to me in a class, and she said my name. I looked at her and I said, are you so-and-so from such and such? And she said, yes. And so, oh my God. And she said, you saved me that day. I was in a home where I couldn't leave my room, where they had a bucket on the door, and they wouldn't allow me to leave the room to go to the restroom. And when you brought me down to the counselor, I told the counselor what had happened to me, and they took me away that day, and I am forever grateful. And I said, well, I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. And I'm sorry that I was a catalyst in that. She said, don't be sorry, things happen for the way that they happen. You see, scars aren't a sign of weakness. They are a map of resilience. And while I felt bad for what I had done, I also felt like that there was a mocking teacher, not teacher, but administrator that was mocking this young lady when I was in there. And I told my mother, and my mother went and talked to them about the way that he was treating this young woman. And she demanded that his job be taken from him for acting that way. And it's because we care. And I think that if we can get our heads around who the people are that actually really want to hurt people, these people that are narcissistic in manner, these people who are abusive in their wanting power and control, they drive this coercive control to hold us as a community in spaces that don't drive healing, spaces that take away our humanity. If you look up, the Biderman stuff that I talk about a lot, it's those steps in there and how that is whittled down. And if we can get to be a community that sees that for what it is, that understands what coercive control looks like, that understands what narcissists do, their traits that they have that cause damage to other human beings, that systems of justice are not doing the things that they should do properly. If you watch some cinema that has been out, you'll see that if you think about Judy Malinowski, she is the first woman in the United States who testified at her own murder trial and won. But she had asked for law enforcement's help 36 times. 36. And it wasn't until she got set on fire that they finally figured out how they could help her. It's a shame. It's a shame that people have to suffer like this. And so I think, where do we look? We look for the people that are caring. We look to each other. And as a community, I hope that's what you see here, is the act of caring. I talk to people all over the world separately, in people that have reached out to me in the back and asked me for help because their parent is keeping them from school, because they don't want them to be able to go away, because they want them to be able to take care of them when they're older. Ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned. We have to do better as people to care for one another, to look at the pain. Don't turn away. Look, see what pain looks like. Don't be afraid of pain. How are we going to change it if we turn away? I know it's bothersome, but it's also uplifting when you're in pain and somebody sees your pain and somebody identifies it and says, I've been there. I know how that feels. When somebody offers you their love and their compassion, when you're depressed or something is going on with you and somebody offers you their hand in, I'm here for you. This is why I talk about self-care, because sometimes people aren't there readily for us to ask for help. We can't abandon who we are and the love that we have to give and only give it out to other people and not give it back into ourselves. That's part of abandoning us. So it has to be a balance. That's why I bring up Dick Van Dyke and his, you care about the life and the welfare of the other person as much as you care about yourself. When I have somebody call me or send me a message that they can't find help in a situation where somebody's got a gun and wants to take them out, and they're afraid to move. They can't even imagine being the whole thing with people that are in power and have so much power and trying to speak and be 14 years old or 12 years old and trying to speak up against that. That takes some resilience. And I just think that as a people, let's look to each other, at least on this page, so that you feel that you're not alone in this situation. Talk to each other if you can. If you can't, people who can talk, put your stuff up there and say, I felt like this. This has happened to me, so other people can see and they can identify with what that is. I want to draw this community in a big way. And that's all up to you, because I'm still going to be this person that's going to still try with all my might to change a world, and so that maybe a little bit gets seen and maybe a little bit gets changed, because we deserve better as a society than to have this coercive control coming on through government and scare tactics and racism and in the home and in churches. Breaks my heart. Absolutely freaking breaks my heart. I want better for this world. So look for the helpers. I hope you feel helped here. I hope you feel loved here. And please know that you're cared for. Reach out if you need to. Together, we're just going to build a better way of being. That's my hope. You deserve better. I deserve better. Take care.